As tears fall down from my face, I am filled with anger and disgrace. I will do anything to destroy this place and shatter its image like a porcelain vase. That facility has no place in modern society. This structure that looms over me should have not existed, nor should the people within it ever have existed. This entire expanse that I now walk away from should be burnt to the ground and its rubble crushed to dust. It deserves no more of my attention, and no more of anyone else's for that matter. What that man, no, what that thing did to me is unforgivable, and someday I will destroy the entire world if that is what it will take for me to destroy him. I allowed myself to be captured by him. That I will never forget, nor forgive myself for. I used to be some plain old Joe Blow who would go out drinking late at night, get off late from my shift working manual labor, and head down to the local city bars and drink. One night my boss had really pissed me off, and I decided to drink a bit more than usual. My tolerance for alcohol was especially high that night, and I planned to fully down my anger in liquor. A man in some rather concealed clothing came and sat one seat apart from me at the bar and asked for a dry martini. He gave a short glance in my direction and pulled the bartender aside and told him to cover my drinks. The next glass of whiskey was covered by the concealed man. Seeing as how this person I knew nothing about was so willing to pay for my drinks, I decided to move over one seat so that we were sitting right next to each other and I could converse with him. He wore a hat that helped hide some of his facial features, but I could make out a slight jawline and tufts of black hair. As he spoke, he had a slight British accent under his rather smooth and elegant tone. "Work was rough, huh? Damned construction companies out there knowing nothing but the sound of metal slamming against metal and overworking employees for quick profits." I nodded my head and replied to him, "Yeah, those assholes really don't know how to treat employees." The man finally turned towards me, revealing his face and figure. His face was rugged, yet slender at the same time, and over his left eye he had an eye patch. "Then would you rather work for someone who would pay more for easier work that actually made something more meaningful than another bloody skyscraper? I promise you that your salary would be at least double what your current employer is paying you." He slipped a card out from his pocket and handed it to me. "Would you be interested in such an offer?" Every instinct in my body told me the man was nothing short of bad news, but I decided to go ahead and take up his offer anyways. There weren't that many other options for me at that time, and any chance I could to climb up in this cruel world, I would take. "I accept your offer, Mr. Norton. Please, call me Mr. Norton." I wanted to turn and walk away at the last minute, but his firm grip had a hold on me the same way as I and voice did. Something about this man just continued to drag me in. I left the bar after I finished my drink that Mr. Norton had bought for me and went back home that night. The next day I went to the location he had indicated on his card that he gave me back at the bar. The card was rather nondescript other than the name of the company. Sampson Medical Research and Development was the name of the company. However, the name didn't matter to me. What mattered to me was that it was a research facility that wanted good people doing good work to help promote scientific research or something along those lines. To me, the science jargon didn't matter. What mattered was that I could do an honest job and make twice what I was making before doing work that didn't make me want to throw out my back. Had I listened to my instincts, I would have probably lived a happier life. My reckless abandonment is what led straight into that trap, and what allowed me to be forever altered by that bastard. I went down to the facility the following day and entered it without any issues past having to park my car in a special parking lot. I made my way to the facility and I finally got to meet Mr. Norton face to face. His facial features were fully distinct now. His age seemed not to show across his face, although I would later come to know just how old he was. His features were well defined, his hair slick across his head, and one of his eyes remained covered. He was not a man of large stature, but exuded a strong presence from his moderate frame. He was quick to greet me at the entrance, and quick to make sure I couldn't leave. "Ah, Mr. Murdoch, we've been waiting for you." I was shoved forward closer to him by some people in lab coats. Handcuffs were placed on both my hands, and I was presented for Mr. Norton like a piece of meat. It's time for your first job. You will be the subject of a series of tests to see if we can make the perfect scientist. I was led into a room shouting and screaming at the bastard. Let me go, you bastards! Why are you doing this? Norton! Norton! I was thrown into a cell and locked away. Day in and day out, men in large suits would come into my room and inject substances into my arm, waiting for some reaction to take its hold over my body and then leaving me in the cell to let the chemicals do their work. Over time, I found my body shrinking in muscle mass size due to the lack of food being brought to me and the reaction that the chemicals were having within my body. As they continued to perform the tests on me, I found myself learning more and more how they worked and how their chemicals were transforming me. My figure went from being a fairly muscular frame to a long and thin frame with defined features. The strangest thing is that I never felt my body diminish. In fact, I felt my strength grow stronger as my body changed. As I began to grow stronger, however, Norton started to make regular visits to my cell to run tests with my arms handcuffed behind my back. Soon, I would learn exactly what he had in mind for me. With these stitches and thread I place under your skin, I will begin to control your mind, and your new journey will soon begin. I found that Norton would always speak in these rhyme schemes whenever he was around me. He always spoke in similes and metaphors, and I never understood why he would do that, but it always irritated me. I would scream and shout obscenities at him for torturing me with his stupid riddles. The odd thing was, I learned more and more about medicine and from the people working on me and doing these tests. I seemed to grow smarter and smarter with each passing day. But I always had a sinking feeling that every shot they gave me, like each of them put a weight on my mind and my body. Slowly but surely, it began adding up. I could tell that whatever this chemical they were pumping into my veins had side effects, and that one day they would catch up to me. As the days passed on in the facility, I found myself starting to hallucinate and experience some rather bizarre things within my cell. Reality and fiction for me became a blur, and I found myself nearing a breaking point. Unfortunately for me, that breaking point would seem to come far later than I had hoped. Norton came in one day with a needle and thread. I didn't know what he was doing then, but I quickly found a thread laced through my skin faster than I could break through my restraints and snap his neck. He sewed something out of my chest with a cold thread. It was a strange symbol that had 7 points on it. After his handiwork was done, he removed his eye patch for the first time ever, showing me who he truly was. It is time that you finally knew who I am and why I brought you here. You are the first of a line of test subjects who have passed my rigorous chemical testing and have proven resilient to everything that your body has undergone. Age for your body has ceased, and your needs of survival, such as subsistence, are minimal. He chuckled to himself before he continued rambling on to me how I had changed. You may just outlive me, young man. You just might. I began to grow more and more frustrated with him. What do you mean by that, you bastard? You've kept me here for weeks on end, injecting me with chemicals and other garbage. What do you want from me? He chuckled again and revealed to me what was his true plan all along. I picked someone like you, Murdoch, because I knew that you would be the most likely to survive my treatments and the most likely to learn something from your stay. He began to ask me random questions, all that seemed to have medical relevance. I found myself answering them instinctively, and to my surprise and the surprise of all the other scientists in the room, I answered every question correctly. Norton smiled at me and congratulated me on passing his little test. Congratulations, Dr. Murdoch. You have completed your training. His hand fell upon the spot where he stitched the symbol onto my body. Take good care of this. You will need it to find your prodigy and to teach him everything you need to know. We must awake Master Gidnash before we are too late. I was left with more questions as to what this guy was even talking about, but before I could even shout at him, I felt a large pulse pass through my mind and things started to go black. I found myself in a room. A light appeared in front of me, and from beyond it a powerful voice commanded the air around it and spoke to me.
Do not fall into his trap. You have been given a powerful gift, Murdoch, but do not use it to follow his plans. He aims to betray me and wishes to destroy me and you as well. He wants world domination and for everyone to live under his rule for eternity.
Around me, flashes began to appear of scenes from a world in what appeared to be a distant future. There were statues erected in Norton's figure. People around the world looked just like me. I saw bodies everywhere, corpses lined in the streets, and Norton sat upon a throne, commanding people to do as he wished or be killed where they stood. How could a man like him do such a thing to people? I could no longer handle what I was seeing. I started to feel a throbbing sensation where the threads were placed under my skin, almost like a second heart trying to smother my own. The horrors that I witnessed were far greater than anything I could have ever imagined. This man wanted hell upon earth with an eternity of torture and suffering for anyone who was unlikely enough to survive. Whoever Norton was, he commanded great power, and I could tell that he needed to be stopped at all costs. Destroying the world may seem like a worse option, but leaving the world to Norton would be leading everyone to hellfire and damnation. I knew what I had to ask this being next. How do I stop him? How can I stop him? The being that I could not see replied to me.
I am Gidnash. The man that turned you into the monster you are now is far more powerful than you can imagine. But we can defeat him together. You must go out, find someone capable of bringing destruction to the earth, wipe its face clean. Target everything that he tries to create and destroy it. Only corruption and evil can come from a man like that. Once the world is free of human will, I will be free to descend upon the earth and finish him myself. I will then restore the earth to its former glory and restore peace to the lands that were once destroyed. But I cannot do this without your help.
I felt confused and belittled by his plan, almost making it seem like I wasn't capable of killing Norton myself. Why can't I just kill him myself?
Because the power within him is from a god above all gods. To kill him would be fruitless and would ensure his ascension. In human form, at least he is weak and would be unable to take control as long as I still exist. But if he defeats me, then I will fall just like the rest of your world, and I will be under his rule forever.
As he spoke, the throbbing from the symbol sewn onto my body throbbed harder and harder.
He can sense that you are talking to me. Go now and find someone who can create the ultimate weapon to destroy everything. Wipe the earth clean and I shall restore it. But if you fail, everything is lost forever.
And with that, I found myself back in the cell, Norton slapping my face for me to wake up. That was quite a bit of sleep you got there. You should get moving, Dr. Murdoch. You have a lot of work to do. You will be heading down to a new mental facility that I started up and will begin your search there for someone who can bring us closer to Gidnash. And from now on, you can refer to me as Dogma. None of this made any sense to me other than that my body and mind were forever changed by what Norton, or rather Dogma, did to me. Dogma wants to hunt down Gidnash for his own personal gain, and Gidnash wants to destroy the world and Dogma along with it and restore it to its former glory. I wasn't sure which was worse, but I favored any world in which that bastard Dogma no longer existed. So since that day, I worked at the Greenwood Mental Institution, and within just a few months of me taking over the facility and creating hell and chaos there for my own entertainment, I finally found him, the one who could bring down everything and destroy Dogma along with it. I knew I had to train him, to raise him, and then I let him go. I left that facility long before him and told him what to do next in order to free Gidnash. But I had a few loose ends to tie up. I was going to go to the lead scientist's home, the one who administered shots into my body every single day, and burn his house to the ground and destroy everything that he loved. His family, his prized possessions, everything he knew and loved, and leave him to die in the cold of winter. And I would save the best for last. I knew exactly how and when Matthew would bring about the end, so I made a hideout for myself, with my mind waning from each passing day as I feel this world finally coming to a close. I want to leave this world, and most importantly, the facility in which I stayed in, to burn and die along with the rest of it all. Even in my own dying madness, I can't help but to laugh at the destruction I've created. My mind may soon be gone, but so will everything else. I may be a demon, but at least I know what I was created to do, and that is to crush anyone who stands between me and dogma. And dogma, I'll make sure the last thing you see is my hand gripped around your throat and my smile as I steal away the life you cling to.